Good evening. Welcome to another Power to the People. Good evening, Tuesday evening to you. I hope your week has started out good, and if it hasn't, we're gonna put an extra fuel in it today to fuel at least your knowledge, empower you to understand what's going on within our political system and how you can take advantage or get over the barriers and the hurdles that has been set to suppress the vote. And so we want to provide communications, good content of what needs to be done in order to get our votes done in November. And I'll tell you more about that. I'm thinking about pushing the vote for October, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that a little later. And we're gonna get some more people time to come on. We're running a little behind. I was chopping it up with our panel, and then looked up and saw we was past time. So we're excited to be able to have our Democratic Party chairwoman, Miss Beth Wicker. I'm going to bring her on in just a couple of seconds. She's out of the Chesterfield County. Now, don't tune me out. Don't turn us off. Don't swipe if you're located in another state. If you're located in another state in which you are, a bigger part of our audience is not just local. We're pretty much a global audience. But a lot of the things that we will discuss tonight will concern some issues in your state. Some of the formalities of voting. Now, here's the deal. Since we are a global platform, if you are an organization that you know, contact me, and you have a Democratic Party in your county chairperson that would like to use our platform, I welcome that, because we want to empower the people, not just here in Chesterfield or in South Carolina, but wherever you're viewing us from, and we can make that happen. We can also make it happen. Say you're in, for an example, Indiana somewhere. We could open up the algorithms there in Indiana, where you are from, with your zip code. We can open up algorithms there and flood your town, flood your city from wherever you're from. And we just want to make sure that our people get out to vote. All right. Good evening, Rocky. Hello, Mother George. All right. Let me speak to a couple more people, and we'll go ahead and get to moving. I see three. Did I miss somebody? I believe I did. Let me see who we got here. Miss Tammy. Hey, Tammy, how are you? Good to see you tonight. You guys, do me a favor, if you would, go ahead and share. And we're going to bring up, just share this out. I don't recommend a watch party, but if you could do me a favor and just share it out and invite someone. All right. We're going to bring on, well, let me bring on my co-host, and you all probably know him. He's been on. Hey, LaToya, good to see you. Coach Justin Johnson is an I self-proclaim or proclaim that he is an up-and-coming young politician. At least that's my hope, and I really hope that we could have him in this area. But wherever the Lord moves him, he's going to be a powerful voice. So thank you, Coach Johnson, for being with us. He's a head coach down in Hartsville, South Carolina, Hartsville High School, the Red Fox. And so he's going to be able to point some questions out, some concerns that I may miss, and he will definitely be on top of it. All right. So we're going to bring now our panelist, Miss Beth Wicker. Again, she is our Democratic Party chairwoman of Chesterfield County. And Chairwoman, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce us to your cat, if he's around.
Surprisingly, no. I usually, the minute I sit down to do anything, I usually have at least one. I have rescue cats.
Okay.
And all right. Usually at least one underfoot, and surprisingly alone tonight at the moment.
Okay.
We may have one flip through.
All right. All right. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'm originally from North Carolina. My father was born in a log cabin. His father was a sharecropper. Dad ended up being the assistant director at the Institute of Government at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And so when I teach at the technical college, I tell the kids it does not matter where you begin. You can go wherever you want to go. He was born in a log cabin, and they owned the clothes on their backs, and that was it. And he ended up being a very highly ranked chaired professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So you can get anywhere you want. And my daughter has learning disabilities, and she is a tenure track professor now in Kansas.
Oh, wow. Okay, good, good.
So my non-political passion is helping kids with learning disabilities. I tutor.
Okay, good, good. And we need that, especially, and Coach Johnson can attest, especially during this time.
Yes.
And those kids, if any kid need us, they probably need us right now during this pandemic.
It's hard for all the kids, but it's even harder for the ones who have learning disabilities because everything's disrupted, and that makes things worse for them.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your how many years you served as the chairwoman, how many years you've actually worked in the
chairwoman. The chairwoman is a new position. I just got elected in March, but the only birthday I have ever cared about was 18 because then I could vote. And none of the rest of them mattered. And as soon as I turned 18, it was back when you still had paper ballots. And I immediately started being one of the volunteers who literally physically counted the ballots after each election for the precinct that I was in.
Okay.
I was brought up by parents who were very involved in community service. They were very involved in civil rights movements. We had bomb threats, and my mother would grab us, my sister and I, and take us out of the house somewhere public and safe. And they were absolutely adamant that you got involved and you spoke up, and when you saw something that wasn't right, you said so and you acted. You didn't sit quietly and go, oh, gee, that isn't right.
Okay.
You stepped up. And so I step up. And after Trump won, I said, you've really got to step up now.
Really? For the capital R.
Exactly.
Well, we're grateful. We're grateful for you. I know I am, and I appreciate your service. Now, do we have a Republican Party here in Chesterfield County?
We do. They don't. I don't see much from them in the media, but they do exist. I have met the chair briefly for the party, so I know they do exist. And every now and then you'll see something in the paper, but they don't appear to be terribly active. But it could just be that I'm not seeing what they're putting out.
Well, no, I think you're correct. I actually did a little search. I probably didn't search as hard as I probably wanted to, but anyway, I searched to try to find one. But I did not find anyone.
I don't think we have much of a presence. He's the poll manager of the Middendorf precinct. I believe I'm correct in that. I think that's where I met him during the Democratic presidential primary.
Okay. Well, I just wanted our audience to know that I am open to having some questions for a Republican Party as well. However, this is where my heart is, to be honest. All right.
Well, and I would recommend that anyone who's watching who is a Republican look up the Lincoln Project. That is run by lifetime Republicans, some of the big ones who've really helped get people elected as Republican presidents. And they are going to know what we have right now is not true to the Republican cause, that this is not what we actually believe in. This is not genuine conservatism. It's not right. And they are working to change it, but to stay true to what they believe is the roots of republicanism. So if there's anybody watching who really feels strongly that they are a Republican and are not comfortable with Democrats, they might want to look at the Lincoln Project.
Well, but don't go nowhere. Stay here. We may can convince you, at least for this term. I know I will appreciate you for right out the bat. So don't go anywhere. Hopefully, if you are just listen, and maybe something will be said that will persuade you for at least this term.
Yeah.
All right. Chairwoman, do you want to share some things with us that's burning on your heart, or do you want us to just jump into the question? For the audience, I've have several questions that we are prepared to ask the chairwoman, but if according to how you want to lead, if you want to share something.
I would just like to say that it hurts my heart when I run into people who tell me their vote doesn't matter. Your vote matters. I don't care who you are. Your vote matters. Just like a football game, we've got the coach on. Every game is won 1 point at a time, one player at a time. And when you don't vote, you are effectively voting against something. So your vote matters. You do need to get registered, and you do need to vote, whether you're going to vote absentee this time because of the pandemic, whether you're going to go vote in person, you need to vote. And that just distresses me when I talk to people and they say, well, my vote doesn't matter. You know, one vote doesn't matter. Yes, it does. We get to those huge numbers, one vote at a time.
All right. Okay. Well, and that's hopefully you guys stay on for the whole hopefully about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And Coach Johnson and I are going to share some things that will hopefully motivate you to vote. Coach, you want to share just a little about what you hope to get out of this opportunity you have with the chairperson?
For me, exactly what Ms. Wicker said, which is your vote matters. Like, I can't stress that enough. Doc White, I told you that's my primary mission, is to get out here and make sure that people understand that their vote matters, and that I drown out the noise from those who say that the votes don't matter. So if you're listening and you're someone who still isn't registered, you still have time. I know early voting's happening right now in North Carolina this week, but they're probably the first ones out the gate. But there's still time, especially here in South Carolina, and there's enough time all the way up until probably about a week out, I'd imagine. So just keep going, keep working, plug away. If you're somebody like me who's trying to encourage people to vote and to get registered, it takes a lot of us, to be honest. I think we saw in 2016, a lot of people were, I guess, a little bored, if you will, when it came down to the choices. So they decided to stay home, or they decided to throw away a vote, as I put it. And not to say that a third party candidate or an independent isn't worth a vote, but I think it was high time in 2016, and that wasn't the time to protest with your vote. But that's what happened. So I'm really trying to encourage people not to do that this time. I think candidate Biden as well as Harris at the top of the ticket, they're strong, and they're probably a little more towards the middle than we probably going to see for a while. Moderate. And they're not far out there leftists as they kind of get painted sometimes. They're not radical. They're very close to the middle. Now, I can understand where some people want a little more of a progressive agenda. I get that, but they're probably as close to the middle as you're going to get. And I think in this climate, that's probably what we need, because I really think we've experienced radical the last 3.5 years. So we don't need any more radical. So just come on out, work, and vote.
Okay. All right. Thanks, sir. So we'll go ahead and jump in with the first question. And Coach Johnson, if you can see that, if you can take that, I'm gonna make an adjustment here off camera.
So it's the mail-in voting from your county. As far as a reasonable time, if you put in now, I feel very confident you'll hear back within that 5 to 7 day window. But if you haven't, I would encourage you to go and follow up. I think Chesterfield County, they're pretty quick. I remember when I registered there, as far as voter registration, it didn't take long at all.
Yeah, that's these questions for the chairperson. She know these for sure.
Oh, okay. I thought you said me take that one for sure.
Oh yeah, take it to give feedback. I'm sorry.
So So I guess you can elaborate on that as far as Chesterfield County, but also South Carolina in general. If someone is, I guess, not hearing back, I don't know what hear back would mean other than maybe receiving their registration card in the mail.
I think that's what it means.
Yeah.
And this is where people are getting scared because of the Postal Service issues that we've got going on. I have talked with Kevin and Ernestine in the office in Chesterfield. From their end, everything is moving smoothly right now. They are recommending that those who have internet access do everything online.
Gotcha.
You don't have to worry about it getting delayed and lost in the mail if you do it online, and that is what they are recommending. You can mail it if you don't have internet, but if you've got internet, they recommend you do that way.
Okay. And the process is about how long online?
Very short. It really and truly only takes a few minutes to do it. And they'll tell you exactly what you need to have, and they've got the forms you just fill out just like any kind of online form, and you click send, and it will send it. And this is true for anybody in South Carolina, not just Chesterfield County. You go to scvotes.org, or you can go to votebluesc.com, which is a Democratic site. The no, it's not .org anymore. They just changed it. It's .gov now. That's the state election board site, and they just changed it to the .gov so that people would know it was a government site, not a private site. And the Vote Blue South Carolina is run by the Charleston County Democratic Party, and that will feed again to any county in the state. They will, whatever county you live in, they will get your information to that county Democratic Party, and they will process your voter registration, and they will process your absentee ballot application for you.
Okay. And also, when they're registering online, how important is it for that address that they use to match their physical like identification card?
It must, because when you get to the polls, they are going to ask for your ID, and if your ID does not match what is on that voter registration, they will not let you vote. I had one in the primary that happened. She came to vote, and her information did not match, and they did not let. And she had a candidate she wanted to vote for, and she could not vote because she had moved and had not bothered to go and change her driver's license. So the current information was on the voter registration, but it was not on the driver's license, and so she did not get to vote.
And I know some people like me, they're moving and whatever, so that's very important. If you're moving right now, to really consider that, unless you're going to just drive back over where you were, I guess, and maybe vote there.
That's illegal, actually.
So I don't know what else they can do other than make sure they get it right.
Yeah. As soon as you move, just go on and change everything. And again, you can do your address change online also. You can go to your county registration office, but you can also go online.
Okay, so so the takeaway, you can do all of this online. Now, with that said, about the ID not matching, what if you arrive to the poll and you leave your ID at home? You just forgot it, and they tell you you can't vote. Is that you can't?
No
So
reason.
you got to have that ID.
After a driver's license? Excuse me? We had that happen in the primary. Lady
Well,
to the poll and said she didn't have an ID, and I'm thinking, excuse me, where's your driver's license if you're driving that car?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Not unless you're driving, got a ride or something. But you got to. So we're gonna make sure you got IDs.
And it needs to be a picture ID. And if you do not have a driver's license, you can go in advance to voter registration and get a valid picture ID. And I don't believe there's a charge, but you've got to go and get it. We had one elderly lady again in the primary who came in and did not have a photo ID, and legally they cannot let them vote.
And I think it's less than $10 to get that address changed on your license. So and you can do that online. I recently did it, so you can handle that online. Don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So.
And once you handle it online, they mail the license.
Yeah, they mail it right to the house.
Okay. All right. I didn't know that. All right. So you guys hear that? If you need your address changed, go ahead and do it online. They'll mail it back to you. You need to do that now without procrastination. All right. And then the next question. Now, let me ask you this before we move on to the next one, Michelle. Do you prefer, as one of the chairpersons, do you prefer the mail-in, or do you prefer that we go in person? And
For applying, for registering to vote?
no, for voting.
Oh, for voting. I think you need to do what you're comfortable with. I will absentee vote because
So
I will be going around to the polls. And so I will absentee vote. And I generally, the office in Chesterfield County is a large size county, but the population is not large. So there's almost never anybody in the voter registration office. So they open, I've got everything written down here. Last day to register is October 2nd or postmark on the 3rd. They will open for in-person absentee voting on October 5th and close on November 2nd. So you cannot absentee vote on the day of the election because then you're just voting in the election. You can turn in a paper absentee ballot on the day of election, which I had not realized. But you cannot actually absentee vote in person on the day of election, which of course, I mean, you're there going to vote.
Yeah.
So on October the 5th,
yes,
you can go in person and vote. Am I clear?
That's correct. You can go, and they are going to be opening. It's going to be in the papers, the local papers this week. But Chesterfield County is using some of the COVID money that they got, and they are going to have satellite offices open for a specific 2 or 3 days in Pageland, in Cheraw, in McBee, I think, and in Mount Croc. I think Mount Croc, Patrick, and Jefferson also. I'm not sure about Ruby. But that's going to be in the papers this week, in the Pageland paper, in the link, and probably in the shop where Kevin said he sent the information in. So that if you don't want to go to Chesterfield, you are going to have the opportunity during October to go to a satellite site during a set 2 to 3 days in a community that's closer to you. And you can vote live in person then. And that is all going to start October 5th.
Okay. So, for as community leaders, such as Coach Johnson and myself and others, will it be ideal to go ahead and start our voting push then? I mean, even loading up vans and getting special like our seniors going ahead and moving into the polls early.
Make sure they qualify to vote absentee. This special provision that was in for the primary expired. The South Carolina Democratic Party has a lawsuit in process trying to put that back in for the November election, but it is not there now. And if you go to scvotes.gov, it will tell you the qualifications that are currently in place to qualify to be an absentee voter. Because
so
there's a whole long.
So you have to be an absentee voter to go in October.
South Carolina does not have genuine early vote. It is absent. A lot of people get confused with that. It is absentee voting, and so you have to qualify for that absentee, and then you can go. But you were talking about your seniors. If you're 65 or older, you automatically qualify. So you can pay your seniors. That's not a problem.
Okay. So all they need to do is see your birthday on your ID, and you automatically get in. All right. Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Well, I noticed that was kind of emphasized during the primaries that COVID wouldn't probably be a reason for absentee voting, which I think is, a bit suppressive within itself. But with that lawsuit that you all have, do you think you have good legal standing there?
Yes, because they did this and got it for the primary. Mm-hmm. So we did a lawsuit and got the legislators to do this for the primary. They didn't want to have to fight the lawsuit, and they went on and changed it and put it in place. We are hoping that they're going to do that. Generally, they don't get much done in the summer, so we're hoping it's September now that we're going to see the legislature come back and change this and do what they did in the primary and say that anybody who wants to vote absentee can say, I'm concerned because of COVID, I want to vote absentee. But that has not happened yet. So if that's going to be your excuse, if that's the only way you qualify for absentee, you just got to keep your eye on that.
So the odds of them running the clock out between, now we're in September, trying to run the clock out to get to October. I guess as just a layman, I'm just armchair quarterback in here. I kind of can see what they might do.
Yeah,
but I think I see that, if we're honest, Lindsey Graham's probably going to be in a tight race. So it would be advantageous to try to limit / suppress a little bit. So I guess I see the tactics and I'm hopeful that you all are successful. But let's say you aren't. What should we be telling people to do?
They need to look and see. I'm trying to find something to speak to your suppression comment, which is really important. They need to look at those lists. It's a long list on that scvotes.gov for the absentee ballot, and it will tell you. And most people, honestly, can find something on there that fits them. That they can say, oh, this fits me. I know when I was caring for my husband when he was housebound, then that qualified me because I was caring for somebody who was sick. And so then I could absentee vote for that reason. A lot of people, if you're not going to be able to get off your job to vote during the correct hours, then that qualifies you to absentee vote.
That's most people.
If you're going to be out of town or out of state, then that qualifies you to absentee vote. People who are active duty and not in their physical area where they're registered to vote are automatically qualified to absentee vote.
You knocked that one out the park.
You just need to look, and most people can find. I'm trying to find on SCDP, and their website is not as easy to navigate as I want. We do have a voter protection unit on SCDP. Did I send you that, Reverend? I'm not sure we talked about voter protection.
No, I don't recall. I don't recall you sending that. But you're going to be coming back.
Okay, I'll look for it in the meantime and have it ready.
Yes,
because we have got a fully staffed voter protection unit. If anybody feels that they are being discouraged from voting, that their vote is being suppressed, they're having trouble getting to the polls, they're having trouble to register, that voter protection unit has lawyers ready now, and they will go after whoever is causing the problem and get it stopped, because they are really, really concerned that this is going to be an issue this year.
Yes,
and they've got paid staff, but then they're also getting volunteer lawyers all the way around the state to be ready to go on election day. But they're already working now. We're already having some suppression issues around the state. So if anybody encounters it, report it immediately so it can be dealt with. Now, we're lucky in Chesterfield County, we have not been having issues, but that doesn't mean it won't happen. We have had some Jamie Harrison signs defaced.
Yeah.
In the county. So if you're having that, then you don't know what else you're going to have.
Well, I think you're spot on. And I think it's a sign of just how in play South Carolina is for probably, at least I'm 30 years old. I've never seen, South Carolina really in play. But I think South Carolina's in play this year.
Absolutely. We have Republicans who are actively working for Jamie Harrison and who are actively working for Melissa Watson for the 7th Congressional District, who are tired of what they see as a sad excuse for a Republican representing them, or actually failing to represent.
Flip flop.
And they are ready for change, and they are working for change.
I'm with them.
Okay. All right. Sister White, if you can give us our next question, which I think I see it. Can a requested ballot be
for your immediate family?
Yeah. Can you request a ballot for your immediate family?
Yes. And again, if you go to the scvotes.gov and click on the absentee voting, it will tell you, and it says who, and it's really, you have to read it. It's very specific. And the reason for this is the whole voter fraud question. And this has come up across the country periodically. And both parties have had problems with this, but most of the issues have come from the Republican Party. I did some research about 2 years ago, and I was surprised. The Republicans are the ones who are always complaining about voter fraud. Every single case I found that had been successfully prosecuted 2 years ago, the perpetrator was a Republican, and almost all of them were older white men. I was stunned. That was not what I expected at all. I thought it would be a broader spectrum, and it was not. It was startling.
They worked for the Russians, or? Okay. So,
but the ballot part, you have to read it and make sure, but you can request it for your family. When I was caring for my husband, I could request it for him. Taking it back is difficult. They have changed the requirements on who has to observe it. It no longer has to be a justice of the peace. Anybody can be your witness.
Okay.
And that's a change. A lot of people remember when it used to have to be a justice of the peace, and it does not anymore.
Okay.
So that makes it a lot easier than it used to be.
Now, does the family member, say like my mother, for example, lives in Greenwood, South Carolina, can I go online and do her application for her, or
No, she has to do hers unless she is. My husband was disabled, so I could help him with his because he was disabled. So what it says, a voter or a member of the voter's immediate family, and then it lists out who that would be, or an authorized representative on behalf of a voter who has an illness or disability. So it's pretty tight, but it does actually make sense, because if you're completely competent, you should be able to do it for yourself.
Okay. All right. And next question would be, I'd like to request an absentee ballot application for multiple people in my household. Is that possible? I think we just covered that one.
So you can, you just have to be careful with it.
All right. Let's see what this is about here. Oh, let's read that far down. So poll managers and assistant poll managers, $6 training. Now, do they come through you if you want to volunteer for this training?
Online, scvotes.gov. And again, anywhere in the state, and they will send your application to the county where you reside. I talked to Kevin about this also. Okay. And he said that many areas still need workers. He's actually okay here, but they're always looking for more people, because you don't know who's going to get sick at the last minute, especially with the COVID, and now they're talking about the flu being bad. So anyone who's interested in doing this, go to scvotes.gov and click the button and put your application in online. You can go and do it in person, but the advantage of doing it online is then it doesn't matter where you live in South Carolina. It's going to be sent directly to the correct county.
Okay. All right. So now with COVID and children really not being in school, probably twice a week, parents will have their children with them. Can they bring the children to the poll?
They can. They need to be masked. They are requiring masks in the polling places to protect everyone. The masks need to cover your nose and your mouth. A lot of people keep doing this under the nose thing. That doesn't work. So you're protecting yourself and everybody else. Make sure your children understand it if you're going to bring it. I took my daughter from the time she was a baby in with me. All right. Once they're kind of in the teenage years, they're probably not going to let them go in with you. But there should be a space for them to sit or stand inside the polling place, so they're safe and they're not out by themselves, and the parent can be supervising them, and then the parent can vote. And we've gone away. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember when it used to be the cloth things and you went in and nobody could even see you in there. Yeah. So we don't have that anymore. Parents will be able to see the children. The children will be able to see the parents. It should not be a problem as long as the children are behaving. If they are not behaving, I'm sure they're going to be asked to leave, because they'd be upsetting the other voters.
Okay. All right. And Coach Johnson, I'm going to let you read this one. I know this is one of your pet peeves here.
If you've been incarcerated, can you still vote?
Absolutely. And there are so many people who are terrified by that, and it breaks my heart that they think because they've been incarcerated that means they cannot vote. I was going to try to find, I had it earlier. You cannot be in prison, and you cannot have had a conviction for an offense against election laws. specifically election laws. But otherwise, if you have served your entire sentence, including probation or parole, or have gotten a pardon, you can register to vote in South Carolina. And the other thing I have been told is that if for some reason you don't qualify, applying will not hurt you. It is not going to damage your chance for parole. It's not going to be a black mark against you. It will not hurt you at all. If for some reason you don't meet the qualifications, they will simply send you a notice that says, sorry, you have not met the qualifications. You can't register at this time.
So in South Carolina, we don't have, I know in some states, individuals get out and the fees are just through the roof. So it's almost a countermeasure where they don't even go because they can't afford to pay the fee. They don't have a job. You know, they have this record. They can't get a job. So, of course, if they do get a job, they don't have the money to go spend on these fees to be able to vote. So Coach White is right, or Dr. White is right. That is one of my soapbox issues, you know, because I see the tactic that's used there. But we don't have that in South Carolina, correct?
No, we do not. I'm thrilled that South Carolina is ahead of the game on this, because in many states they are fighting for people to get the right to vote. You know, the whole thing about, I mean, you're sitting there in a church, Christian forgiveness. Hello.
Yeah.
Their sentence, then
right.
we need to give them the chance to start over. And that includes being able to vote and participate in the political process.
Correct.
And I don't understand the states that don't do this. I can understand if you're convicted of election laws violations, and I can understand if you're convicted of murder. But, you know, if what you've done is something significantly smaller than that, then it makes no sense to me to say, well, you don't get to vote. Why not? You know, hello. As I said, forgiveness and let you build your new life and move on. If we keep stomping people down, then we can't be surprised if they end up back in the court system again.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Right. Okay. And let's see here. All right. Those that's listening, if you have any questions, please at this time, if you would go ahead and feel free to ask any questions. I know I've seen Miss McCall and Latoya, you guys, Rem George, Sister Felder, some of you, if you have any questions, if you go ahead and ask at this time. And I have one more. I do want to clear that you can track your mail-in ballot, right?
I actually am not positive about that. Coach Johnson, you know?
I haven't seen anything of it, to be quite honest. That's why I've decided I'm going to vote in person, because I'm just a little apprehensive about it. But I haven't seen anywhere where you can track the ballot.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that in Chesterfield, they have everybody who has completed the absentee ballot application process and requested a mail-in ballot. They already have the envelopes ready. They will not have the ballots until the very beginning of October. So they had people before the conventions demanding that they be given a ballot to vote. And we didn't even have the candidates. Completely turned.
High times. These are high times. That's all.
So, but Kevin says they'll have them in October, and it opens. What was the date I gave you? October
5th.
Last date, the last day to register is October 2nd, and the voting opens on October the 5th. So in South Carolina, and one of your questions was, if I just moved, can I vote in South Carolina? As long as you have moved and registered 30 days ahead of the election, then the answer is yes. If you move closer than 30 days, then the answer is no. You would need to vote back where you came from if they still allow that. Hopefully they would.
Okay. Now that's important to know. So you, in this essence, you will go back, unlike what Coach Johnson was saying earlier. So you will. Okay. All right.
If you're within 30 days, because but that's only if you're just registering. If you're coming in from another state, if you're moving within South Carolina, you should be able to get your address changed pretty fast, because you can, like he was saying, you do it online. It's real quick.
All right. Okay. Let's see if we have a question from
Miss Outlaw. Said they did not ask her for a photo ID last time, and that's a mistake on the poll workers' part. They should have.
Well, I will say I did show my ID. My address wasn't changed at that point. They
Mhm.
did allow me to go ahead and vote, but they said I needed to change it before the actual
Yeah.
next election happened.
And
Okay.
some of that depends on the poll workers and do they know you? And you know, some of them will give a little bit if they in the primaries if they know somebody and they know you're not trying to do fraud. I think for November they're going to be very, very
Change
careful
it.
to stick to
Yeah.
those rules.
Okay. Thank you from Miss Carolyn, Miss Outlaw for that. And let's see here. One of the last questions is the Democratic overall platform. Can you give us some insight up? No, we won't say that one for last. Not there's going to be much to put out, but the Democratic platform. That's going to be my segue into Coach Johnson and I soapbox in a minute. So. But do you have some overview of the Democratic platform? We will have one of the candidates for United States Congress, Miss
Melissa Watson's coming
Melissa
on.
Watson, yes, and that's on September the 17th, I believe it is. Let me make sure. While you can go ahead and give us some insights on the Democratic platform, and I'll make sure that
Anybody who wants to read it exactly can go to the DNC website. But basically, to me, it's about honesty and compassion and what I consider genuine patriotism, which is we are supporting the Constitution and we're supporting change within the laws. And we're saying if something isn't right, we are going to work to change it. And what we were talking about with the convicted felons who serve their sentence and that they need to be able to vote to make these kinds of changes. And so that's what the platform really is about, is bringing decency and compassion and honesty back to America and being cohesive instead of divisive and drawing what I call a big circle that includes everybody instead of these little tiny circles that push people out just because they aren't exactly the way I am.
Okay.
And with the Democratic platform, I think it kind of gets drowned out these days. So to those people who are sitting there who maybe their minds aren't made up, which, you know, I do think there still are some people, even though I do believe there's a lot that's already baked in the cake. Like you said, some people were requesting ballots before the convention even happened, right? I think so. A lot is baked in the cake and people feel the way they feel, but there are some people who are still right there in the middle teetering. I guess in just a simple form, what would you say to them as to why they should move under the Democratic umbrella, at least for if only this election?
The Bible says thou shalt not lie. We have never had a president who provided full-time jobs for fact checkers because he lied so much. I mean, to me, that's a real bottom line. I can't stand lies. I just cannot abide them. And then I also believe that Jesus taught that you include people, you reach out to people, you care for people. And that is the opposite of what Trump and today's Republicans, and I'm emphasizing today because it wasn't always this way.
Right.
But the current Republican Party, that is not what they are doing. They are actively doing things that violate the Constitution. He should never have had the convention at the White House. The House Act is being violated right and left. And to me, those are reasons to go Democratic. I'll hush. I'm getting ready to go over the board. But I do see another question. Let me answer. Ms. Patterson wanted to know about students attending a university.
Okay.
It depends on the state they are in. When my daughter was in university in Ohio, she was able to become an Ohio citizen, even though she was an undergraduate in Ohio. And that then became her permanent address. That became the address on her driver's license, and that's where she voted. And we were real fortunate because Ohio has a much better healthcare program for poor people, which college students are. And she ended up with major health issues while she was an undergraduate. And in South Carolina, she would have been in trouble. So we were really glad she had become an Ohio citizen for that. So that's kind of up to your student. It depends on the state. I think it was your son anyway. They'll need to check with the rules for their state and see. But in most states, college students can choose to become a citizen of the state where they are in college, assuming they are a resident in that state. Now, this year, a lot of them are not.
Yeah.
So many of these colleges and universities are doing it online. And in that case, it just changes unless they're staying in an apartment in that state. You know, if they're back home, then they're going to need to be registered to vote here in South Carolina. It's more complicated this year because of the virus.
It's funny you mentioned that. I kind of chuckled when you said that because I went to a small liberal arts college for undergrad. I guess I can name it Newberry College. And sometimes the students would get upset and say, oh, the town doesn't treat us this way or that way. And I used to always say, well, why don't you just go ahead and become a resident here? You live here. And then our votes will matter, and then they'll have to actually pay us a little more attention. So just a little plug to those college students who are active on their campuses, who want meaningful change in the local communities that they're in. That's the way you do it.
Well, exactly. And they can run for office. And there are some nationally that do, that are enrolled as undergraduates and run and win in city councils and county council seats, because they do want to have somebody speaking the voice for the students. And absolutely. But you have to start by saying, I'm going to declare residency here and go in and register to vote in that state.
Okay. Now, with that said, with the college student, the military, of course, it's a given that the military would vote absentee and regardless of where they are stationed. But what if the spouse is, let's say, home of record is in South Carolina, they're stationed in Indiana? How can that spouse vote?
I believe so, because if the home of if they're military and the home of record is South Carolina, I'm going to look and see if it says anything specific on that. But I believe that falls under that general military absentee, members of the armed forces, spouses and dependents residing with members of the armed forces or merchant marines. Yes.
So they would vote South Carolina.
They would, yes, they would vote in wherever they've got set as their home address, and they would vote absentee, and they already qualify, so they can go online tonight and apply for that absentee ballot.
Okay.
And we are recommending that everybody who's going to vote absentee apply as soon as you can, unless you're planning to go do it in person. And if you're going to do it in person, you can do the whole thing on one trip. So you just walk in with whatever you need to support your reason if you need anything. It tells you on there if there's anything you need to bring in. Mostly it's just a question. You just tell them what your reason is. And then you fill out the little form, and then they give you the ballot and you vote.
Okay. Mark, if you're listening, did you understand that to be home and record? All right, you own it tonight, Mark. Thank you. Okay.
He had a birthday recently. I think a little more wisdom kicked in.
Happy belated birthday, Mark. Okay. And let's see, we have let's see, one more. Well, it's not a question, but a valid statement that the census September the 30th. So all this is about to close out on us real soon at the same time. So 2020 census. Do you have anything on that, Chairwoman?
I do, because I'm working as a census enumerator.
Oh, okay.
Because I think it is so important, and I am appalled by the number of people I'm finding in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s who are telling me, A, they don't know what the census is, and B, they've never been counted. I have been in Chesterfield County for the last several weeks. Today, part of the day I was sent to Darlington County, but folks, it matters. People, A, they don't understand it's in the Constitution. You're required by law to do the census, and they don't understand why we're doing it. We're doing it because we pay our tax money in. This is part of how we get our tax money back into our communities to do our schools for our kids, to do the hospitals, to do the roads repairs. And let me tell you, driving around the county, we need those road repairs. to do the bridges and to hopefully eventually get broadband into all of the county. It's, you know, and it's based on population. And one of the ladies I was talking with was saying that it was so important for business, that many businesses require a population of at least a certain amount before they will even look at coming into that community. So if we're undercounting by hundreds or thousands, then we're missing out on businesses that won't even come here because they don't think we have enough people, when in fact we do. We're just not counting them. And one of the problems I'm running into is a number of the houses, I'm convinced there's somebody in the house, but when I knock on the door, they won't come to the door. Now, I don't think I look terribly scary. I'm a white lady. I'm not real frightening. And for whatever reason, they're afraid to come to the door. And so they don't. And we do have, mine's in the car, but we have a lanyard, and it has our U.S. Census Department of Commerce, and it's got our picture, you know, and it says census on it. And we've got a black bag that says big white U.S. Census on it. So you should, if the people are doing it right, be able to look out your window and see something that says U.S. Census, so you know who we are. I try to make sure, and I made an extra sign that I put on the sun visor in my front window, so that if people look out the window, hopefully they can see that in my window and go, okay, this is the census lady. Oh. And it's mostly ladies. There are some men, but it's mostly women.
So what the message or the, what I would say, myths out there, such as the landlord would find out that you have more people in the house than, so the landlord doesn't have right to that information.
Nobody. There's a confidentiality agreement, and you, the census worker, is required, and if they're doing their job, they're going to hand you a blue piece of paper, and it's got English on one side and blue, and the other side is green with Spanish. And it's got one column that explains the confidentiality. Everybody on here tonight clearly has internet. You can also go, somebody put the website up earlier in the comment section. You can go to the website and look up the confidentiality information. They are not allowed to release that information. And I do amateur genealogy, and we use the censuses, but they cannot release it until the person is dead. So if you are alive, they are not allowed by law to release your information. Creditors don't get it. Landlords don't get it. Family doesn't get it. You know, nobody gets that information, and it's coded. We're not given the name, and people say, well, what name? And I'm going, well, I don't have a name. All I have is an address, and that's for your protection. And the information, we're using an app on the telephone this year. And as soon as I enter it and click done, it leaves my phone and goes to the cloud. It's gone. I can't get back to it. So you don't have to worry about the census workers doing something with you. And we would go to prison. That was really stressed in our training, that if we copied any of the information anyhow, we go to prison. Boom, done. You know, and I don't think anybody working census has any desire to go to prison, but it leaves our phone the minute we push enter for that person. It's gone. And you can't get back to it. You realize, oh my God, I made a mistake. It's too bad. It's gone.
So even if the law is looking for them, and they know the law is looking for them, the law don't even have access to
Nope.
Nope. All right.
Nope.
Okay.
And I think that's exact. People don't understand, and I think some of them maybe think we're prostitutes. You know, they're afraid to open the door that they're going to get. You've been served, and you know, and that, look for that lanyard. It's a black lanyard, and we have a tag, and the lanyard says census on it, and we've got the big black bag, and it's got the big white thing that says census. And if they're displaying it right like they should, you should be able to look out your window and see something that says census, so that you know who we are and that we are not a threat. And people don't understand why we want the names. And part of that is the government trying to make sure you're not counting the same person twice, that you didn't get Beth Wicker here and then Beth Wicker there. You know, they want to make sure we're only counting each person one time. And the other piece is people like me doing amateur genealogy, to be able to go back to the censuses from the 1800s and part of my family from the 1700s and see that these people, and there's the name, and you go, oh my gosh, that's where Jake came from. There was a Jake in the 1700s, and then in the 1800s, and then there's my dad, you know, and that's really neat. And that's why we want the middle names, because those are names that get passed down in families. And sometime, you know, 100 years in the future, somebody might want to know that your middle name was Daryl and go, oh, I'm Daryl. And it goes back to Daryl in the 2020. And it's the same thing with the race question. If you've got, and most Americans, I was reading an article this spring, most Americans who have any family that was here in the 1700s are more than one race. Apparently, there was a lot of intermarriage with Native Americans in the first 100, 150, 200 years that didn't get recorded, but it's there. So if your family knows of this, we encourage you to include white and Native American and whatever else is in there, because most Americans are not just one race. Most of us are more than one, and the census didn't used to let you do this, but now they let you pick however many you want. And there's an other, so if you don't like any of the categories, there's an other you can click and tell them what race you want to be known as.
All right. And this affects 10 or 20 years?
Every 10 years. We do it every
10.
10. Canada does it every 5. I personally think we should switch to that. We've got such a huge population and people move so often now. I think 5 might be easier, but nobody's going to listen to me about that. So,
okay.
But we do it. We do it every 10, and we do it on the 0. So we did it in 2010. We're doing it in 2020. The next one will be 2030.
All right. So those of you that's in Chesterfield County, is extremely important. We had a town hall a few weeks ago about youth violence and programs for youth, and so this is important that you do this for. I mean, you only can do it 10 years. And your child may be an adult by that time. So this is the time to get that financing or funding into our communities. All right.
We're cheating ourselves when we don't do it.
Yes. All right.
And also, I think earlier with the youth, we had that, and I don't think we mentioned it. It was on the screen, but being a poll assistant, a poll worker assistant for our youth, that's something 16, 17-year-olds who have some time now, they want to figure out how to pitch in. That would be a great way for them to pitch in.
And it's a super thing to put on your college application. If you're planning to go to college, that's going to look really good on your college application that you've done that.
Okay, good. All right. And there was a question about South Carolina. Do they purge? I think
not after 1 year. It's a longer process, and I'm trying to get the information. And the purging, I did find the purging is done in Columbia. In Chesterfield County, at any rate, I cannot speak for any other county, but in Chesterfield County, they do not initiate any purges within Chesterfield County. So any purging in Chesterfield County is done out of the state office, not out of the county. The county never initiates a purge. If you are curious, you can do the scvotes.gov, and there's a place in there where you can look up and make sure you are still registered to vote. If you do not find yourself, call Miss Ernestine at the Chesterfield office and talk to her, and she will help it sort it out. We had one gentleman that knew he had registered to vote, and he was not finding himself. And it turned out somebody had entered part of his information incorrectly, and Miss Ernestine got it straight. So we are real lucky in Chesterfield County. Kevin and Miss Ernestine in Chesterfield, they want everybody who is legally able to vote to vote. They want to get you registered, and they want to make sure you actually get to vote. And we are, I hear horror stories from some of the other counties. We are very fortunate here that we have them doing that. So any questions you have, just call over to Chesterfield and they'll help you.
Okay. All right. Miss Beth, thank you so much. We're if you're still on, I'm gonna ask if you would hang out about 10 extra bonus minutes. This is bonus airtime for well, I'm gonna let you go, Miss Wicker, because I don't want you to get kicked off the board. We're about to have some down dirty talking here in a few minutes about motivating some people. So but we will ask you to come back with Miss Melissa Watson, who's running for U.S. Congress. She'll be on September the 14th. That's a Monday. So that's going to be a double feature Monday, and we'll have something else on that Tuesday. And then we're having Pat Hennigan, State House Representative candidate, will be coming on the 29th of September as of right now. And so, so Miss Beth, we'll ask you if you would come back with Melissa if you can, and we'll talk with her. So we thank you so much. All right. Mark, I know you down for OT always. Okay. All right. Thank you, Miss Whitaker, and we'll be in contact with you. I'll be in contact for sure.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Here we go. Now, this is what if you would please just hold on about 10 to 15 minutes. You'll find this a little fascinating. The thing here is we talked about the Republican, I'm trying to find where we are, the Republican platform. And the Republican platform did not have a platform. They only had a Trump form, if that's such a word we can invent. And so what I want us to be able to do, Coach, is to talk just a few moments about, let's see here. Let's start with the Trump holiday. Thank you, Miss Beth. Thank you, Miss George. The Trump payroll holiday. This is why we got these is three things I want to leave with you in 3 minutes. We're going to give about 4 minutes time, and we're going to keep talking all the way up through October. So this Trump payroll holiday began yesterday, and it's deferred amounts of money that would incur in penalties and interest according to Trump's order. But the guidance say a little different. The guidance released by the IRS on August 28th specifies that deferred payroll taxes must be repaid between January 1 and April 30th. Now, let's go back and see. There will be penalties and possibly interest. Coach, by way of encouraging our people to vote, as Ms. Whitaker stated, how much of a liar and this administration is. Yes, we will see a little bit in our paychecks, but it will hurt those who are looking for retirement. And one of the Republicans' platforms, Coach, back some years was to get rid of Social Security. So the trick is to get you a little change in your check for you to run down to your nearest mall, buy you some sneakers, spend it all up, and then you have to pay back that money with interest and penalties in January.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Mark.
It's twofold. Well, I'll go back to 2016 when Trump said he wouldn't mess with Social Security. So many people voted for him, and now they're realizing that that was against their own interest. This is, I guess I should be fair and say that although the programs are in place, it's not required. So it's up to the businesses if they're going to take it on. So I don't know if we get much of a say as a quote unquote employee, but the business could decide to do it. The guidance that's been given is that if you get that money, to just put it aside and save it because you're going to have to pay it back. Now, the caveat, or I guess the carrot that Trump is dangling is, well, if you reelect me, I'm going to make it go away. The problem there is he can't unilaterally do that. He would need Congress to do that. And as it looks right now, Congress is going to be Democratic or Democrats for the most part. So I don't see how he's going to get it to go away per se. So it really is an all-out assault on Social Security. That's what it is. And I think the impact of that is going to be felt, and it's going to be felt for years to come.
And who depends? I'll just be straightforward. I know
I got a grandmother who depends on it right now. I mean, month to month, that's her source of income. So this one hits home, but there are a lot of folks who are right now very pro-Trump, and this is going to be hurting them as well.
Right.
And I don't want to knock them for their vote, but they are truly voting against their best interest.
Right.
I can't stress that enough.
Right.
He also said that he wouldn't mess with, I'll go on this. He wouldn't mess with, their medical stuff, but he's tried to repeal Obamacare multiple times, at least the portions that he said he wouldn't touch. So you can't trust him that he's going to then come back and take care of our senior citizens when we've seen our senior citizens left pretty much to fend for themselves during this pandemic in nursing homes. You know what I mean? Like, so if we don't step up and at least try to protect them right now, I think we're going to be in the world of hurt at least come March, April, whenever.
And with that said, the pre-existing conditions, again, and I'm compassionate to Trump supporters. I'm not understanding really why right now, but because his playbook is wide open, and it caused me to second guess the character of those who follow. Now I understand that there are some things, and one of the main things that only thing I really hear is abortion, but for what he's destroying is far lasting than abortion. I mean, but before I go into that though, the pre-existing care conditions, that's an atrocity to life. And the seniors here in South Carolina, in case you guys don't know, we just opened up the nursing homes. Speaking of seniors, just opened back. The governor just opened nursing homes back open. It doesn't seem. It just. I don't know, man. This is crazy. So the seniors are being left out, and like you said, our mothers and fathers and grandmothers depend. That's the key word. They depend on this. People like President Trump, they don't depend on their Social Security. They are well off for various reasons. But that's one thing I wanted us to highlight, and we'll talk more and more about this as it moves forward.
Doc, let me say this before you move on from it. The Republicans have deemed Social Security to be an entitlement program. It's not an entitlement program. People have worked, they've put money into that program. All right. No different than the Postal Service, by the way. They're trying to make it as if it's some entitlement program as well. But the problem that we run into as a government is when we take on these public programs, these programs, and we try to make money off of them, right? So that's where we're finding the issues. That's why you have, and I'm gonna speak to my people right now, my folks who are millennials who are paying down college debt. We have that because they decided to take student loans and make it a business. Okay. So when they take something as innocent, right, and then they try to make money off of it, that long-term impact, we feel that, they don't feel that, right? So the long-term impact of trying to do this with Social Security, so essentially making money off of it, right? So, there's more money in your pocket, right? So somebody's going to benefit from that money, whether it be the business owners, the rich just going to get richer, but we're going to end up having to pay that back while they aren't going to pay anything back on that money. So we got to be real careful with it. I think we gotta just be honest and say, hey, even if this is the singular issue that you're voting on, I think it's important, right? Because in 2016, the Republicans decided their singular thing, a lot of them, was Supreme Court, right? That was their thing. Like, I can look past this guy because,
right.
McConnell held up. He didn't let Obama's, appointment through. So they knew that the Supreme Court was up for grabs. And that was the one thing that they hung their hat on, was that a lot of people to justify voting for Trump. So I think as you look at the Democratic platform, I think we got to start looking at these singular issues that absolutely impact us, right? Impact us individually. And it's not time to sit here and start pointing fingers and tearing down our own candidates, record and all, like that's out the window. The primaries are over. Like we need everybody on board, because this right here, if we don't change it, our senior citizens are going to feel it. And then that next generation behind them is going to feel it as well.
Right. And it's like you say, it's pretty much personal now. And we as parents need to get our young people engaged, because if they are not engaged to vote, it's going to affect your grandparent. I mean, your grandchildren. And let me show you how far impacting this is. Coach brought up the fact about the judges that has been appointed. And I didn't mean to go there this quick, but he took me there, so we're going to go ahead. Donald Trump has appointed more appeal court judges than any other president at this point in their tenure. Now, you'll see President Obama is at 37. That's a two-time, I want to say that again because it felt good. It's a two-time term president. And you have President Trump in less than 4 years have appointed 43. And so he's putting in place some things that's going to impact for generations. Now, this is my pet peeve I had with the Republican, well, some of our people. We was excited, some of those that are Trump supporters that look like Coach Johnson and I. No offense to you there, Mark. I know you're listening. But we were offended by the simple fact of him parading. Hold on a second. That's what I wanted to put up. Parading some black people across the stage. That's what I want to say. I'm trying to find. But if you look at those black people that were paraded across the stage, has nothing to do with your life. But nothing to do with your generation. These people right here will impact your life. You do see them. Now, this is the thing. The other thing with that, Coach Johnson, before I turn that over to you, is that out of 194 appointees, well, this here is his staff. His staff is 1 black, 2 Asians, no Hispanic.
Well, he definitely doesn't have a black in his at the senior level. There's a guy under there. I think his name's Jared, who's been with them for a while, and he's pushed forward a lot of agendas, especially what you've seen as far as the monetary money that's gone to the HBCU.
Hold on, Coach. I want to say Mark is very smart. You said what his last comment was?
Yeah, I saw that. That's what I'm about to get to. Like, okay, so when you look at his senior level, they're not represented. At a sub-senior level, he's got 1, and that's the guy that's been there for the longest. And bless his heart, because he's been trying to do the work. But you look at that and you see the people paraded across the stage at the convention. And it wasn't even to pull in black votes. Like, that's the thing that we got to be very careful of. He wasn't even trying to reel in black voters.
Right.
He was trying to make white voters comfortable with the fact that he had black voters there. Let's be clear about that.
Right.
So those who feel like he's a little insensitive, those who feels like he has some racial undertone, those who feel like he's a little questionable when it comes down to racial matters, he tried to make them feel comfortable by using black folks as props. Okay, so let's be clear about that. No true agenda for us, but he claims to have done more for the black community than anybody else. And I think he feels that way just because he supported the HBCUs as strongly as he has. But in all honesty, they aren't all of us. Okay, so and what he's doing for them doesn't impact us day to day. But that what we talked about just a minute ago, doing away with Social Security, that does impact us day to day. And that will impact us day to day. And I said it before on here, and I'll say it again. When economic downturns happen, we're the first ones hit hard. When recoveries happen, we're the last ones to get even a piece of it. Okay,
say that again. Say that one more time.
When economic downturn happens, we're first to get hit. When recovery happens, we're last to get ours. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So now you're talking about taking away Social Security. I just don't see how we can sit home and be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. Because again, it's not an entitlement program. It's what you paid in for years. It's what generations before you have paid in for years. And he's trying to do away with it. And it's only going to hurt us first.
Right. And now, one last thing, and we're going to let you guys go. And that is this here. Let me take down that so we can see what that is, Sister White. All right. All right, let's go jump into this one. What you think that's about right there? I'm gonna tell you in a few minutes to go, Coach.
Well, it's Trump playbook, right? So in 2016, lock her up, build a wall, right? He finds something that resonates. He talked about a caravan coming from Mexico that was coming to slaughter you in your home, MS-13, whatever. So he finds these issues to scare people. So all he's been trying to do here lately is scare people, mainly suburban women, that the police, they're trying to defund the police so they can come and raid your neighborhood and tear down your neighborhood. So it's this picture that he's painting, that because people are out there protesting the bad cops, that they are against all cops. And that's not true. Right. But at the end of the day, people are fed up with the bad cops enough to say, hey, you all need to do something about them because there is a problem here. Okay. So the blue wall of silence can't continue. Something has to give. Right. So that's where you see these people in the streets, but they will take singular issues of looting that happens. You'll have a peaceful protest all day. Then you have looting that happens at night where the agitators come in who had nothing to do with the peaceful protest. And then they will take that, you saying, hey, those were peaceful protests. And they will spin that to say, oh, this is what the Democrats call peaceful protesting. And they'll show you a picture of rioting, looting, buildings burning down. Right. Then they'll say, oh, they want to defund the police. When actually we all can agree, I think at this point we can agree that there is a need for better training for our police forces, at least in de-escalation. If nothing else, that needs to be ongoing and continuous, right? They promised us this national database for police officers, okay? I haven't heard anything since he came out with that, whatever that was. It wasn't even a law. It was a executive order, right? That I don't think had any teeth to it, right? So there hasn't been any movement. He hasn't made it his singular mission to actually lean in. He's actually done quite the opposite, and he throws more gasoline on it. And then you have what you have, which is people who decide, vigilantes who decide they got to come out and quote unquote protect the police officers or protect a community that they do not even live in.
Right.
But that's what he is praising, but he's ignoring these people who find themselves out here peacefully protesting, saying, hey, enough is enough.
Right. And purposely would not condemn the young man that murdered those two people. Would not condemn it, but then he goes farther today and say that,
what an interview.
Yeah.
I mean, Laura Ingraham pretty much had to walk him through the interview because he would say something that was so jacked up, and then she would walk him back to say, oh no, you only mean this. I mean, it was so, I don't know how people can sit there and listen to this man and not walk away understanding who he is at his core. Again, choking. I listened to him. He said they choked. Like shooting somebody in the back 7 times is not choking, dude.
Not choking.
Like a 3-foot putt, a missed free throw.
Yeah. Like
there's no comparison to a human life.
Well, and that's the emphasis I want to bring to our white brothers and sisters, and black. Unfortunately, it bothers my mind that I have to explain this to blacks. And why Black Lives Matter is because it's when you compare a life to a golfer's missing a hole just 3 feet away. That is the issue. I don't care nothing about the platform. I don't even care to dive into what the platform is, because I hear some of my black brothers and sisters saying that the platform isn't right. I can care less, but the term is right. Black Lives Matter. And this is why we have this emphasis on Black Lives Matter, to compare life to a choke. And then, Coach, he uses the word choke after
George
police,
Floyd.
quote unquote, choking George Floyd. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And you use that same term.
Well,
Go ahead.
just insensitive. But again, what it shows us at the core is that to him, that is the equivalence, right?
Mhm.
That a black life is equivalent to someone missing a 3-foot putt. To him, he sees that way. So he doesn't care. That's why he hasn't leaned in since George Floyd to condemn anything, because he does not get it or doesn't care to get it, because to him, it just doesn't matter. He'll say, oh, it was wrong, the officer was wrong, but then he'll go tweet about someone's background and vilify them, on at the same token. So at the end of the day, and I hate to keep saying this about the police department, but until the police department decides they will stop being a political football, they're going to continue to be at the center of stuff like this. Because at the end of the day, there are guys in the police department who, when they hear Trump talk about being tough and all of these things, they love it. They love that, because they think someone's pro them and that they can pretty much do what they want to do. And people don't want to admit that, but that is a byproduct of his language that he uses. Just rough them up a little bit, as he says, right? So when they hear that, they think they have free reign, because hey, at the end of the day, we see him pulling the strings with the Justice Department. Right. Good grief! I mean, that place is so we can't get a new president fast enough to clean that up. Right. Just what's going on over there and how political it has become, and how little trust we have in the Justice Department to even oversee an investigation of that nature without letting him lean in and tell them how they should handle it. So at the end of the day, I think we have more than enough issues to vote on. So to me, I do think a lot is baked in the cake and people have already figured out where they are. But if you're still on the fence, then I guess I just have to wonder why, because he's given enough to at least show that he doesn't care about human life. He doesn't care about how he impacts people's lives. He uses his platform to go after common folks and pretty much have people in the community who listen to his every word out here attacking and threatening these people and all these types of things. So it's unreal, just what we've seen coming from the White House in 3 years. And I watch it probably closer than I should, because at the end of the day, I keep seeing myself baffled at folks who I say turn a blind eye. And I'm trying not to go there, Doc, with the church, but the church is probably right there on the list for me now, when I see these evangelicals who are coming out condemning Joe Biden on abortion, but have been silent on Trump for 3 years. Silent. But because he's pushed forward their agenda, they stay silent. So it's showing me that the church is compromised too, because the church doesn't lead from the front anymore. The church only leads from a reactive state these days, a comfortable position these days. And I shared that analogy with you. Peter gets out on the water, right? He had the courage to step out onto the water, but and then when the wind blows and it gets shaky, he loses that confidence. Somewhere along the way, the church lost that confidence because the water got a little shaky, because it wasn't politically savvy to lean in on certain things. They decided to become silent. And as they become silent, they become, as Mark just said it, complicit. So the church has become complicit in a lot of this, because they should be out front. They should be the ones saying, hey, no, we're not going to be your political football. We're not going to do that, because we stand on Christian values. And to say that Donald Trump is, they go as close to saying, or if not say, he's their Christian president. That's just baffling to me.
Yes. And I wholeheartedly agree with where the church is concerning this, especially evangelical. I can even talk about the quote unquote black church. And the thing is that we don't want to get tagged with the term of a political preacher. And I'm not a political preacher. I'm a socialist preacher. I talk about the social ills just like Jesus did, and that's why we have this platform. Jesus attacked every social ill that affected his people. When we do the least of these things, he says, you have done it unto me. When you do to the least of those people, the poor, the ones that are in bondage, you've done it unto me. So Jesus is seen on many places in his ministry, going off on and speaking truth to power. And so
Even went in and turned over tables, Doc.
right, that's
We need the church to start turning over some tables these days.
Yeah,
I mean,
taking advantage of the poor in the house. And and he spoke to King Herod. I can go on and on and on. So if I want to be a politician, I'll go and do it. But I do care about people and people in our society. So I have a heart to deal with the issue of our society. And this here is a big issue for our society, not for just now, but for years to come. All right. So we're going to be coming back. I'm not sure who we have on next week. I have to, I saw my assistant on. I'm not sure if she's still on. Miss Tasha, are you still on? But we'll get back with you. And you'll know what we have going on next week. Quit the religion and focus on the relationship. Right. Good.
And religion is nothing but ritual. It's time to stop doing rituals and roll up sleeves and get to work. Yes. And I'm gonna end with this point Mark made, and Sister Whitey, if you can find it, he called him what he is. And Coach Johnson and I've been tiptoeing around because that's something you probably say. There you go. Say that's what we're gonna say because we black. But thank you for your honesty. This is just plain, blatant racism. And if you stand for it, you stand with it. I love you, but I question you at the same time. So help us clean this up. Help this whole world to heal. All right. So we'll be in touch with you and let you know what we have next. We may have a little. I'm already getting hate mail. I figured that would start soon, but I'm gonna be here. I ain't going nowhere. Trust me. I am not going nowhere. All right. So we're going to see you next week. And I'll let you know what we have up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a couple of candidates coming up, and we may talk sports next week. I'm not sure, but I check with my assistant and see. I think we got sports and how that has affected the political scene as well. All right, Coach, thank you for your time. I didn't mean to stay over so long, but much needed. And we'll see you next week as well. He's going to be on with me all through October to get us out to vote. Okay. Thanks, sir. All right. You guys have a blessed day, a blessed evening. And I pray that God will keep you in perfect peace and in perfect health. We'll see you on Thursday for our Bible study as we talk about life worth living. God bless you.